Here with head football coach Steve Johnson. And Coach, special day on Saturday for you. 200 wins for you. Can you can you put it into some type of words what 200 means to you and what comes to mind after that game?
You know, it is hard to put it into words, but personally I've had just kind of a flood of, hearts full and just blessed with so many, guys that have gone before. And I know when we came here, we were hoping that maybe someday we could be 500, and not that many people know that because there's just been, just how things have gone, and we never really have changed anything as far as that we want to, hopefully we're attracting guys that love the Lord, love football, and through that love each other in a real way, with a kiss and a kick, we say, and just give your gifts away for free. And along the way, it's like, I kind of am embarrassed sometimes because I feel like, I was just out wandering around and we won a whole bunch of games. But I know there's just a lot more to that, and great players. And we played Gustavus, and that was the game. And Peter Haugen is a close friend of mine, and he doesn't like me that much today, but he will tomorrow. And he was on that first team. And that first team, we were 3-6-1, and I was the coach of the year because we made it closer. But the second year, we almost won the thing, and it was a lot about Peter Haugen, Trent Anderson, and guys, Jack Nagan, who's a coach at Armstrong. And just, so you go all the way back 28 years, and then in between, just great players, great coaches, great guys. And I just think especially Coach Petey. He was playing back then with those guys, and he's been a part of every game that I've ever coached here, which is 290-something. And I don't know, so that's part of it. The other part is that, kind of the flood of texts and things. It's kind of warms your heart a little bit, and you kind of realize how much just have poured in, but gotten. I've just gotten way more than I've given. So sorry about that. This is probably a little common, but.
Well, I think to myself, you were an alum of this team. You played for this team, and certainly probably, you told me you had mixed feelings coming back to coach this team, and now 28 years later, you had the chance to do something special here. 3-6-1 your first year. Did you ever think to yourself, boy, 8 NCAA playoff appearances, 6 Coach of the Years, 5 MIAC championships? Would this all be possible? I
can honestly say no. I seriously, my wife asked me in our first year. I think we lost the game. It was close. Every game was really phenomenal then. And but my wife asked me, how long can we stay somewhere where, if we're 500, we're going to be, super happy and stuff like that. And the hill looked. It wasn't a hill. It was a mountain that. We weren't even interested in climbing, and that's probably a good thing. You wonder how, you don't wonder. There's so much evidence that God's hands on this thing, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it or anything like that, and I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to do those things, but I had kind of gone away. So even coming here was kind of miraculous, but I had an amazing experience in the 70s with Chubb Reynolds was my coach, and kind of tough guys that were God guys, and unequivocally that's a big deal. And and then just building good stuff into one another's lives, and now it's even bigger in my opinion. Maybe it's just because I have some wisdom and experiences. It's even bigger now than back then, because our world is so crazy that men aren't brought together to, in a tough, stay in the fight and finish and do things right. We're not even encouraged that way so much anymore. So football's important, but because we're in a war. And so having a bunch of guys that love Jesus really from their toes, that'll, knock you on your keister on Saturday, that's what we're looking for. Sweethearted guys that are tough suckers. And we keep finding them, and they play good, and we bless each other, and this game really brings you together. But then when you weave it in with Jesus and his work on the cross, all of a sudden there's power that you don't know.
Well, this might be the hardest question I ask you, but 200 wins. Does any one stick out? Does any 2, 3 stick out? Is there one, when you think to yourself, boy, maybe it was the first one, maybe it was the last one, or maybe it was one in between?
I you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that, but if you went on our coaching staff, because we've all really been together for so long, it's
right.
Not just Petey, but one I even texted this morning with Peter Haugen where we beat St. Thomas 48-14 in 1990, and we were both tied for first place, but nobody was really thinking that we were really in first place, and that was a big one. And even that year also against Concordia, just right down to the wire, Chris Ween scored a touchdown, and so those, all those games real early, and then 90. A lot of times somebody said, "Oh, I bet you remember all those." I remember the losses way better, which is the affliction of a coach. But I remember in '96, we were 9-0, and St. John's was 9-0. We're up there, and we just came out gangbusters, great crowds all over, and the place was going crazy. We took the lead. Jeremy Tweet faked the extra point, then got 2. We're up 8-0. Second quarter now, Joe Johnson gets a pick. I am just skying. I remember just the joy we had, and we lost 52-8, and they just blocked the punt, and all of a sudden, you know what I mean? And so so that was huge, and that's kind of in the midst. But I remember 1994, Joel Tannum, John Ebert, our guys that really took us through some great stuff, because 93 is the last time we had a losing season. And it was really, seriously, it's a toughness piece that we really need to gain, and we really have kind of built on that for a long time. And there's a lot of guys in there, Dallas Schwant and Craig Turnquist and Tannum, and I'm forgetting guys, but I mean amazing guys, Jeremy Tweet and then Chad Richards, who's on our staff and growing in there. So 94 was a huge season. 96, if we didn't get beat 52-8 and the playoffs were like they were now, we'd probably go. But now the playoffs have changed a little bit. And then 2000 year with the first year that we won it, we won all of our games. And I remember the biggest game I remember there, seriously, is we're playing Hamlin, and we're beating people, and we're doing pretty well, 10-0, and we're at Hamlin, and we didn't play particularly well. They played really good, but at the last, maybe the last play of the game, they drop a touchdown pass right in his stomach, and it's like, the Lord had to do that one, because we didn't do anything. There's no Bethel guys around. So that was huge. I'm going maybe too long, but no. Then 2001, the defense, we call it, with Hans Bankston was our free safety, and then we had Foss, and we had unbelievable linebackers, Randy Larson and John Foss, Coach Meyer, Rick Meyer was on that group, and just Sam Lacey, just unbelievable guys. So I'm kind of going on and on, but it'll be fun for those guys. But I'm leaving people out. But those are every year is amazing. But those are big things. And then Scotty Kirkhoff era is right in there in 2003. Another game at St. John's where we've had just some great ones, and this was for the championship. Biggest crowd back then. It was the biggest crowd in the history, and it was going for John Glardy's 409th in his conference championship. They had Blake Elliott, who went on play at the Vikings, best player I've seen in our league in 28 years. But Scotty, we took the lead with a couple minutes left. Scotty got hit at the goal line, had to go to the hospital. Paul Cheddar's probably our best kicker we ever had, and I tell him to kick off and just keep it away from Elliott. He kicks it right to him, and so they ended up scoring. It wasn't because of the kick only, but I've had people ask me, why'd you do that? And but that was an amazing game, an amazing year, and we went on the playoffs for the first time. And then first 4 times we went to the playoffs, we lost in the first round, and St. John's was making fun of us back then. And then in those next years, like 2006, I'll never forget, up there, we had never beaten St. John's up there. 1999, the first time we beat the Johnnies, and that was a big deal. And some of their guys were making fun of us because we were acting like it was a Super Bowl, and I was thinking, it's way bigger than that. But so we beat them in '99 and 2000 again, and won the league, and then going on a little bit later, 2006, we're up there, and it was between us and them again, and the Tommies weren't like they are right now yet, and so it was between us and them, and we beat them. I don't know what the score was, but I do know that we ran 94 plays and they ran 45. Oh my. And it was a pummeling, and it was up there, and it was kind of a, it's a hard place to win. it's an enjoyable place to play if you win once in a while. But then we kind of had a string of where we kind of owned the Johnnies for a while, and that was really a fun thing. And then you can't, 2007. Going to the Final Four, playing in a ice bowl at Central. I'm still cold. We do have some guys. I found out last week some guys have toe problems because they had frostbite. And, from back then, and they're glad to have it because it was just one of the most wonderful things ever. And that march to Final Four, and we lost to Mount Union by a pretty good score because they cheated. And then a couple, a few years in there were just phenomenal. And then, you think Phil Porta, Logan Flannery, Mikey Johnson. We had the best running back in the league for like 12 straight years, and that was pretty fun. And now we're pretty good ones too. So that's a neat deal. And then, sorry, I'm going here, but
I'm loving it.
Good. Okay, good. 2007 Final Four, and then kind of getting back to that. And then 2010 was an incredibly special time. Just a terrific defense. Ross Pedersen, a great leader, Billy Morgan, and Seth Mathis, and all these guys, and even though those other ones, the Carr brothers in the 6 and 7, holy cats, those guys were just amazing players, and Jamie Wagner. But then I think about this group on the defensive group was amazing, but we had Logan with Josh Ockrey, and then Logan as a freshman with Ben Wetzel, just phenomenal players. And so we had this kind of duo to where we had the best running back, and then our quarterback would take it out the other way on a zone read and go run over a linebacker. And those guys were crazy, and it was just an amazing group of guys. But that playoff year in 10 is really hard to forget because we went to we were 6th because we had lost to St. Thomas. Mitch Hallstrom had to go to a wedding. We lost 10-6 to the Tommies in the season, so we were an at-large team. So we were 6th, so we had to travel to Wartburg, who was really good, and we beat them 28-21, I think. And then the next week we went to Wheaton. So we played Wheaton, and that was a great deal. And Logan just, had a tough game the whole time, and at the end of the game took over, and it was amazing. And so then our white jerseys were getting wrecked because we're in a row, like 8 games in a row. So then we go to St. Thomas, and it turned out that 2 of the top 8 teams in the country are us and the Tommies. And it was a similar game to the other one, only we had Mitch. We only threw 4 times, but one of them was a real critical fade to Mitch Hallstrom. But Logan ran for 205 yards, and the Tommies had 200 yards. And we ended up, the stats were almost the same, but we ended up winning 12-7 to go again to the Final Four, and then play Mount Union. And they cheated again. Yeah, those cheaters. But those are great things. And then of course 13. Yeah. 13 was just magic with EP and just 5 senior receivers that were crazy, great players with Mitch and Hilly, Jay Hilbrands and Jared Schultz. The nicest person that I've ever met that's tough, and Grant Mitchell and Reese Walker, and then backs with that with Marquardt, and just so much explosion and toughness, Fino, and then Seth Mathis was All-American in the midst of all that. And so, just incredible blessings, and that team went to, and then we lost Eric in the Wartburg game, so the next game we're playing North Central, and we lost that game. And it was disappointing. We didn't have Eric, who was a player of the year, all over the place. But it was 1 degree out, and the field was hard. But as Bethel rallied around us, man, that really blessed me. And we had people that I didn't think, had snow boots or gloves on out there shoveling, and that was pretty. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if they owned them. So, but big shots is what I'm saying. Yeah. It was really fun though. Everybody got together. So.
Well, I think in closing, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about 28 years, 200 victories. But the reality is you have an incredible staff around you that's been with you for a long time. And I think we did the math, 161 years for this staff right now has been at Bethel. And collectively, it's a group effort that this group has generated 200 wins together. Can you just talk a little bit about just the unique staff that you have here?
Yeah, you know, it's that's kind of the blessing of my life. Sorry, I get to go to work with you know, my friends and guys that challenge me, love me enough to kick me in the shorts, laugh at my jokes when appropriate. But they're my mentors, whether they're older or younger, and I can't. Mike Plinsky, a guy that had a profound effect on not only me, but all of us. And even this 200 victory thing is you accept that on behalf of staff and players and, you know, even and manager. I mean, there's just a lot to it. But I think about Mike Plinsky and Don Roberts and guys. And when I came in, you know, I remember Mike saying, "Hey, I'm going recruiting over here." So, wait a minute, you know. So he just helped me with about a million things. He kept me humble because he said, you'll grow into this job. I thought I was ready, but and now I know when I'm older I wasn't. But Coach P, just even our guys now have been incredibly affected. And then Coach Miller took over the defense with that, and Frage and Rick Meyer, and now my little brother Mike, my younger brother Mike, coached with us early, and then he was at Osseo and defensive coordinator, state champs. Now he's back, and that's really a cool thing. And I just go all the way back to just a host of coaches and players and even guys that came back and coached for a while. Chris Might was with us and just woven some great things. But every single guy, you know, weaves in the winning, weaves in the technique, the know-how. They're all great teachers, but they're God guys that are weaving neat stuff into other people's kids, and that's a cool privilege.
Yeah.
You know, and when I think about our offensive staff, Chad Richards, you know, and every coach on our staff, I think, has had his life changed here, you know, including me, obviously, but some of them even as students and even back. But Paul Swan, you know, just an amazing guy. He's been here with us for 15 years and kind of retired, but not so much. We work his tail off. And Scotty Kirkhoff, who blesses me every day, and, you know, Rick Meyer, all these guys all together. I talked about Petey, but as we kind of go through this thing, we're just in it together, and we care about each other. We care about the kids. I tell the parents a lot of times that I say, you know, and I mean, I know they don't think I'm boasting or anything because I'm bawling my eyes out, but you don't know how much our guys, our coaches love your kids, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So, sorry, but I think that's the legacy you live. It's not fancy. It's just open your heart up.
Yeah.
And, you know, be amazing, but be amazing for us, and give your gifts away for free to us so that we can be as good as we can be, and then enjoy one another. And I think that you get more than you could ever ask or think.
Yeah. Coach, congratulations. I just want to say we celebrate your 200 wins, but Bethel's been greatly privileged to have you and your staff here for 28 seasons. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.